Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down the 10.8 changes and discuss how the changes will affect the champion's placement in the meta for the coming patch. So first up here, we got a buff to Ashe. Her Q attack speed is being increased from 20 scaling to 40, now going to be 20 scaling to 60. So once you get that maxed out there in the mid game, you do have a 20% increase on the attack speed from that ability now. It's not going to affect you at all in the early game. It's still going to be 20% there, your first point in it. So it's not going to make her laning phase any stronger, not really going to make her much stronger until she does hit her mid game. I don't think Ashe is even that bad of an AD carry right now in 10.7, so I'm kind of confused why she's getting buffed. The new Hail of Blade setup on her paired with Trinity Force is performing very well in 10.7, so I think with this buff here and with that build becoming more popular now in 10.7 and heading into 10.8, Ashe will be an S tier AD carry for this coming patch. Next up here, we got a buff to Evelynn's Q damage. It's being increased there by 5 at all ranks, so it's a nice little buff to Evelynn. It's not really going to make her that much stronger for 10.8, but considering she is one of the weaker junglers right now in 10.7, it does make sense that she's getting buffed, and I think that it at least makes her now like a low A tier, high B tier jungler for 10.8. So we got a couple different buffs here to Orianna, 3 different buffs it looks like. W move speed and slow amount are being increased from 20 scaling to 40 up to 30 scaling to 50, and then her EAP ratio is being increased from 0.4 up to 0.5. So in this patch right now, Orianna is sitting like in between a B/A tier pick depending on the elo. So with these buffs here in 10.8, it's going to solidify her as a very solid A tier mid lane pick. So next up, don't really know what they're doing with these Ryze buffs here. Not really going to do too much for him. Pretty negligible for the most part. Health is being increased there from 570 up to 575. Q move speed when consuming 2 runes increased from 20 scaling to 40. Now going to be 28 scaling to 44%. So it's not really going to do much for Ryze. He's still going to be a C tier pick in both the mid lane and in the top lane. So I would still be staying away from him in 10.8 if you're looking to climb. Now for Soraka, she's getting 2 really nice changes. Base mana is being increased by 50 there, so from 375 up to 425, and her Q's mana cost is being decreased by 15 at all ranks. So this is really big for Soraka's early laning, just gonna allow her to spam out her Q a ton more in the laning phase, get a lot more poke off, and you're just not gonna run out of mana as much with her now in 10.8. So I think this change definitely solidifies her as a very solid A tier support pick. I don't think it's gonna be enough to bump her up into S tier. I still think picks right now like Nami is definitely still going to outclass her, Janna, Sona, Lulu. I still think they're going to be a little bit better than Soraka if you're looking for a heal or shield support, but she's definitely going to be on a much better level here for 10.8. For Tristana, she's getting a buff to her E bonus AD ratio, going from 50 to 130. It's now going to be 50, scaling up to 170%. So this is more so only going to affect her once you put a couple points into it. So unfortunately, it's not going to make her early all-in potential in the laning phase any better. She's still going to have the same scaling on that at level 1 in it. So it doesn't affect your level 2 or your level 3 all-in. If that were to get buffed, I could definitely see Tristana potentially moving up into S tier for this coming patch, but I just don't think this change will be enough, and she will still remain an A tier pick. Now for Urgot, he's getting buffed again here in 10.8. I think he got buffed back in 10.6, but those changes didn't really do too much for him, so they're giving him some pretty substantial buffs here actually for 10.8. Q damage there, once you get it maxed out, is going to be increased by, it looks like 20, so that's actually a pretty big buff there to his Q. The total AD ratio is also getting increased from 0.7 up to 0.8. His ultimate's cooldown is being decreased at the first rank in it, going from 120 down to 100, so that's actually pretty big. That does increase his solo kill potential in the early game, his ability to snowball, and his E is also getting a bug fix. It's now going to properly give you the movement speed on the dash. So I think that right now in this patch, Urgot's definitely not the best top lane pick at all, so I can understand these changes here. I do think it makes him at least an A tier pick now for 10.8. He's been really struggling the past couple patches, so this change should be enough to bring him back into the meta a little bit for the coming patch. And then for Xayah, she's getting a pretty small buff to her E. Her damage fall off per feather hit is being decreased from 10% down to 5%. So this is a little bit of a buff here to her E damage in the coming patch, but I just overall don't think it will be enough to really move her on the tier list. I still see Xayah remaining a B tier pick in 10.8. So if we move on to the champions getting nerfed now, it looks like this will probably be the final nail in the coffin for Aphelios. He's getting nerfed again here. He got nerfed a couple patches back. Those nerfs affected him a lot. He's not really performing very well right now in 10.7. So with these nerfs here in 10.8, I can see him dropping down to a C tier 80 carry pick. His stat level up there, the bonus armor pen, you're no longer going to be getting bonus armor pen. It's now going to be lethality. So it's going from 3 to 18% bonus armor pen to 2 to 12 lethality. The Q scale up at champs levels 1 to 9 is now going to be at levels 1 to 13, so you're going to be spiking a little bit later on into the game with that change there. And I just think that if you're looking to climb from the 80 carry role now in 10.8, then you'd probably want to stay away from Aphelios. He is going to be one of the weaker 80 carry picks. Now Kalista is getting 2 different nerfs in this coming patch. Base armor is being reduced there. It's going from 23 down to 21, and then her E slow is being reduced from 25% at rank 1 all the way down to 10%. It's only being decreased by 3% from 45 down to 42 once you get it maxed out there, but it's a pretty big nerf to the slow on her E earlier on in the game. Now a lot of the time when you use the Kalista E, right, you're going to be using it to finish off a kill on the opponent. You're going to use it at certain points in the game to get the slow and to allow your team to gap close onto the opponent. So this nerf is going to come into effect in certain situations. Other situations you won't even notice it at all. So I feel like it's not going to be the end of the world for Kalista. I still see her being an A tier 80 carry pick in 10.8. So Master Yi is getting a nerf in this patch here. He's getting a nerf to his ultimate's attack speed, going from 30 scaling to 80%. It's now going to be 25 scaling to 65%. So it's a 50% decrease there once you do get it max rank. It's only a 5% decrease though in your first rank in it. So it's not going to be that big of a change for Master Yi. Right now in this patch, he's an A or S tier pick depending on the elo. Low elos, he's S tier. Higher elos, he's A tier at the moment. So I don't really see that changing with this nerf here in 10.8. Now for Senna, she's getting a pretty insignificant nerf to her passive, unless I'm understanding this wrong, but I don't think I am. Her passive spawn rate on minions that she doesn't kill is going from 25% down to 22%, so a 3% nerf there. Really don't see this change affecting her for 10.8. I still see her remaining an S tier pick. So for Sett, he's actually getting one of the bigger changes. His W base damage is going from 90 scaling to 210. It's now going to be 80 scaling to 180. So it's 30 damage off their max rank in it, 10 damage off earlier on in the game. So I do think that's actually pretty significant. Sett right now in 10.7 is barely holding on to S tier. So with this change, I see him dropping down into A tier for 10.8. And then for Varus, I don't really know why he's getting nerfed. I guess it's probably because of the pro scene. I think a lot of these nerfs in this patch are more so because of pro scene than for solo queue, with like Senna, Aphelios, Kalista getting nerfed. But Varus here, his ultimate cooldown going from 110 at rank 1 up to 130. So you're going to have a 20-second increase there on your ultimate cooldown, which is actually somewhat significant. It does decrease your pick potential in the early game, decreases your ability to snowball there. So I don't think it's going to be enough to drop Varus out of A tier. I still see him being a very strong pick. He's really good right now with either the lethality or with the Borg setup, the on-hit setup. You can go for both depending on the team comp, depending on the situation. So I think he's a pretty versatile pick at the moment, and I still see him being a pretty solid 80 carry to pick up in 10.8. And then lastly here, we got a bunch of interesting changes to jungle. So jungle camp XP is going to be increased by 10% at level 9 and above. So once you do get past level 9, you're going to be getting more XP now in the jungle. Jungle item sustain is being increased by 50% when below 30% HP. You're now going to gain 50% movement speed home guards on death, which is kind of odd. Like this kind of incentivizes you to feed in a way. I don't know. I don't feel like you should be rewarded for dying in the jungle. I guess in a way it makes it so that you don't fall super far behind. Like if you end up maybe getting invaded on or something, and then you get these home guards, you can get back to your jungle quicker, so you don't end up losing out on as much. So it's kind of a buff for like bad players in a way. I don't really see why they would add this into the game, but it's an interesting change to say the least. And then the two biggest changes of all at the bottom there, shared kill XP is being reduced by 20% at levels 1 to 6. So this is a bit of a nerf here to ganking junglers, spam ganking junglers. So somebody, I guess, like Nunu would be affected by these changes. Something like Xayah or Jarvan that just wants to spam ganks in the early game. Those kind of junglers will be nerfed. And then junglers that just want a hard farm in the early game, junglers like Karthus, Master Yi, those type of junglers will get slightly buffed here for the coming patch. And then solo XP though, it's being increased by 20% at levels 1 to 6, so in a way this is an indirect buff to junglers that like to either invade or like to get into 1v1s a lot in the early game, so junglers like Olaf, Rengar, Udyr, Xin Zhao, those type of junglers. I think it's actually a pretty big buff to a jungler like Rengar, because not only are they increasing solo XP, they're also reducing shared kill XP, and Rengar's not really a jungler that's going to spam gank a lot in the early game, but he is a jungler that can look for invade plays, he can look to play pretty aggressive, so I think it's going to be more so of a buff to these like farming junglers, or these junglers that only want to 1v1 or scale to level 6, and they're trying to cut down on the amount of junglers that are just spam ganking, either not interacting with the enemy jungler, or they're just not farming their camps a ton. Alright, so that's gonna be it, guys. That's gonna round out the video. That's everything that you need to know here heading into 10.8, which champions are getting stronger and which champions are getting weaker. So if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.